So this is episode 21 of Los Mariachi Sagas. Uh, we have Monica here. Could you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. My name is Monica Folgequist, and I'm originally from Whittier, California. And although I've lived in a lot of different places since then, and currently I'm living in Austin.
We have Monica here today, our first female guest on Los Mariachi Sagas. Matt here right in front of me.
What's up?
And Monica is the current mariachi director for UT. Right?
Hi.
How long have you been there?
This is my third year, fifth semester there as the director of Mariachi Paredes at UT, and I also teach classes. I teach a class on the history of mariachi music, and currently I'm teaching a class on regional styles of Mexican music and borderlands music. So, Chicano music and Mexican American music on both sides of the border.
Wow, that sounds interesting. Can I join even though I go to
Yeah,
Texas State?
absolutely. Whenever you guys want to come and sit in on the class, it's been really
really?
fun.
Dang.
Yeah.
You sound busy.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, but it's a lot of fun, and I'm just really grateful. I don't get tired of saying how grateful I am for the position that I have, because I don't think there's any job anywhere like this job where I am a full-time employee of a university and my focus is in Mexican music, specifically mariachi music. But then I have this other class where I get to do further research and learn about different styles of Mexican music and, like I said, Mexican American Chicano music as well, and bring that little bit of research and expanded knowledge on my part to my students and get them excited about all different kinds of Mexican music. And it's been really fun.
Yeah, sounds really interesting. Do you like it here?
Yeah, I love it here. I think this is a really great city. I've met a lot of really nice people, and I think that this is a prime location for kind of like a mariachi explosion that hasn't really happened yet. At least I haven't witnessed it. But I think there's a lot of interest in mariachi music, and I think that there's a budding mariachi community that is really just waiting to take hold of the Central Texas area as it has, in San Antonio and South. It's a beautiful city, a really beautiful setting, and so I think I'm very fortunate to have landed here.
So where did mariachi first get introduced into your life? Because you are, right, the daughter of Mark Folgequist,
Yes.
and he is a very well-known mariachi historian, very well-respected person. So I guess you were always in that realm of mariachi.
Yes. So I kind of didn't, I guess, have a choice in it. Not that that's a bad thing, but it was just my fortune that I would be born into a mariachi family, a somewhat unconventional mariachi family, because my dad is of Swedish descent, and grew up in Pacific Palisades, California, which is sort of in the Santa Monica, Malibu area of California and Southern California, and not really known for having a large mariachi or even like Mexican, Hispanic population in that part of the city. But my grandfather was my dad's dad was a Spanish professor at UCLA, and the family would, depending on what work my grandfather had, would spend time in different parts of Latin America. For example, my dad spent his second grade year in Puerto Rico, and the summer that he was 13, they spent the summer in Guadalajara. And that was the first time that he saw mariachi. And he had started playing the violin when he was 9 years old, studying classical music and playing in the school orchestra and so forth. And when he saw this mariachi in Guadalajara, he was so fascinated by what he describes as this unusual combination of instruments, an all-string ensemble, but with trumpets. And he said he describes it as having been struck by lightning. And he said, I instantly fell in love with the music, and that love has never died. And I honestly think that mariachi music is truly the love of my dad's life. And anyway, he didn't see a mariachi again until 5 years later when he was a student at UCLA. And in their ethnomusicology department, they had a mariachi. And he went to a lunchtime concert on campus one day and asked how to join the group, and eventually took leadership of the group. And sort of like his academic career kind of took a back seat to the mariachi. He finished all the coursework and exams for the PhD, but didn't finish his dissertation. So he was just shy of finishing his PhD, but says that he was having too much fun playing mariachi music and making a living. And he just decided to run with that. So most of the members from UCLA's Mariachi Uclatlan, UCLA for UCLA, and with the Spanish suffix tlan.
That's cool. That's creative.
A lot of those students, a lot of the members were non-Mexican origin, and they followed their original career paths, architects and professors, and went on to do whatever they were going to do, engineers and so forth. And my dad decided to continue with the mariachi, like I said. And so eventually it became an off-campus ensemble, and it turned into a professional working full-time mariachi group, and became one of the most well-known, one of the most prominent groups in Southern California at the time. And so he was leader of Mariachi Uclatlan from 1973 until 1993. And in 1981, he opened El Mariachi Restaurant, which still exists today, in Orange, California, near Disneyland. And he ran the restaurant from 1981 until 1993, on top of running the group and on top of playing chambas outside of the restaurant responsibilities. The mariachi played Wednesday through Sunday, with Sunday starting at 10:30 a.m. for brunch and then going all the way to midnight.
Wow.
And so, it was one of the busiest, most active mariachis in the area, and they had a huge following. So anyway, I was born in 1983, and from the time I was born, I was there at the restaurant every Sunday with my mom. That was our Sunday activity, that we would go and watch my dad and the group play every single Sunday. Most people go to church. We went to listen to mariachi music.
Since you were little?
Yeah, since I was born.
Since you were born, eh?
So it's like there in the little baby carrier, and grew up. And a lot of times I didn't really feel a tremendous amount of appreciation for the music. It wasn't what my friends were listening to, even my friends that were Mexican American like me. And it wasn't like mainstream pop music that I was more interested in, because that was cool, And at the restaurant, I would often be one child in a sea of adults, and that wasn't, I guess I associated it with older people and just not having fun as a child, I guess. Although to an extent, I know that I did appreciate, even subconsciously, I did appreciate the music, because those songs were stamped in my mind, and they certainly came in handy years later when I became an active participant in mariachi music. So in 1993, my dad, just by chance, was offered a teaching job. He didn't have a teaching credential, but they were desperate for bilingual teachers in this small apple farming community, agricultural community in the middle of nowhere in north central Washington, Wenatchee, Washington. They had had a huge influx of Mexican immigrants that settled there to work in the agricultural industry. And since there were several different harvests, there was always work. So there wasn't a need for families to come or just men to come and work the crops and then go back to Mexico. And there was no need for that. They could settle there and make their lives there because there was enough work all year round. So they had this huge influx of Mexicanos, but from little ranchos, in Michoacan. And they had nobody to teach them. It was a historically white town, monolingual town. And all of a sudden, they have all these kids who don't know any English and they have no teachers to help them. So even though my dad didn't have a teaching credential, they put him on an emergency credential, and we moved in the summer of 1993 to Wenatchee, Washington. And I started my 5th grade year there. And the second year that we were there, my dad found some funding through bilingual education in the district to start a mariachi class and at Wenatchee High School. So he was teaching Spanish for native speakers, ESL, math and social studies in Spanish at the middle school level, and he would travel between 2 middle schools. And then the second year, they had him at one middle school, and across the street was Wenatchee High School. So he would walk across the street to teach this one mariachi class. And they told him, if you get 15 students to sign up, yeah, the class is a go. And like nearly 50 students signed up the first day. And all of these kids, none of them, and they were older. They were already in high school. And a lot of them even slightly older than what we would consider like normal high school age, right? Mm-hmm. But they none of them had any musical experience at all. And so we all know how hard it is to start music at a later age.
Yeah.
So he was starting from like, put your finger here and bend your arm like this, and
all the
relax.
fundamentals,
Like the very, very basics, just how to hold an instrument. And so this was in 1994. I was in 6th grade at the time, and my dad prepared these 2 little songs, Volver, Volver and Las Mañanitas, for a migrant parent meeting at Wenatchee High School in the library. And it took them like 3 or 4 months to learn these 2 songs. And my dad told me, you have to come and help, because I was the only person he knew in town who had any prior musical experience. I started studying the violin when I was 7. And so, classical music, just like my dad. So studying classical music first. And then when there was a need for me to start studying mariachi music, then that's how I got started. And so I would go to all the performances with this high school group. And of course, for me, it was a lot of fun to be with older people, and I got excited about that. Like the social aspect was maybe what drew me in first before the music.
Right.
And then as I started playing these songs that I remembered, that I recognized, that I had heard for so many years, then I really got excited about it. I was like, oh, I've heard that song all my life. Now I get to play it. And that's really where my interest in mariachi music started, when I actually started playing the music.
Yeah.
And I started singing. I always liked to sing, but I was really, really shy about it. And I would just sing with cassette tapes in my room and with the door closed. I really started to get more interested in singing when I heard Selena. The summer that I turned 11, my mom and I went to visit my abuelita in Sonora, in Agua Prieta, Sonora, which is where my mom is from. Okay. And I saw Selena on the TV. She was doing a concert in Monterrey or something, and I had never seen somebody like that. And she just captured my attention immediately. So when we got back to Wenatchee, I went and I bought her tape, and I just, I listened to it over and over and over and over again. And uh, that's kind of where I decided, oh, I want to be a singer too. If she can do it, like, I want to do that too. And I was super young. I was like 11.
Oh,
And then she passed away a few months later, which was terrible.
yeah.
But anyway, I kind of feel, I mean, as cheesy as it sounds, she was really an artist that I looked up to at a young age that really piqued my interest in what it was to be a performer and to sing.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I started getting interested in like the old ranchera singers, the past generations, Lola Beltran, Amalia Mendoza, and so forth. And
Mm-hmm.
just started singing in my room, and eventually my dad put me to sing some duets, and that kind of helped me get over my stage fright eventually. And so obviously, as we know, as mariachi musicians, you become a more valuable commodity when you can sing and play.
Mm-hmm.
So it was essential but almost accidental that I would develop both skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because up until a certain point, I was only a violinist and would sing in the chorus, and that was it.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about how I got started.
Did you have that killer voice all the time though? When you started?
No, I don't.
You got
think
an
so.
amazing voice.
Oh, thank you. No, that's come with that's, I think, developed over time. Certainly the strength and the stamina and the volume. I think that it was pretty weak for a while, and I mean, we all have humble beginnings. I can remember this this one time when we were playing, because the group, since it was so unique and in the, like I said, in the middle of nowhere in Washington, right, and totally unexpected,
Yeah.
the group became recognized really quickly. I mean, we were traveling all over the state, and we would go and play at these big festivals in Seattle. We would do the Fiestas Patrias
Wow.
celebration every year. That was a huge event in Seattle. And then they also had the Northwest Folklife Festival, where they would invite different folkloric groups from all over. And so mariachi was always invited to participate in that. I remember at that Folklife Festival, I think it was, I was on a stage. I didn't know what I was doing, and I sang Solamente una vez, and it was like the driest, most boring. I just stood there with the microphone, like underneath my chin, wearing this sombrero, didn't take it off, didn't do anything with it. I didn't move around the stage, and it was just like, Solamente una vez, amen la vida. Well, minus the crack right now.
The crack.
Maybe there was a crack in there too. I don't know. But
We've all been there.
yeah, I think that's just how we start, and we
Yeah.
get better the more experience we have. And fortunately, like I accumulated a lot of experience from the time I was in 6th grade to the time that I graduated from high school. I mean, I think in that 7-year period, we must have done like over 600 performances or something like that.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And so we would perform and obviously charge a fee. And I mean, we would do those big festivals and stuff, but then we would also do plenty of chambas, I mean, we were like a regular working group, like how we've all worked on the weekends, playing at birthdays and baptisms and weddings and whatever. And so all of that money would go into the school account. And that's how we would pay for our trajes. That's how we would pay to travel to different festivals. So we went to Albuquerque 5 times or something like that. We went to a mariachi festival in Fresno 3 or 4 times. And my dad actually started a mariachi festival there in Wenatchee, and they would bring Mariachi Sol de Mexico, and we would have 3 days of workshops and then the concerts on the weekend.
Wow.
And that was a really interesting it turned out to be a very interesting festival because, I mean, the concerts were sold out. I think we ended up doing 3 concerts, 2 evening concerts and a matinee, and they were all sold out.
Wow.
And it was this equal mix of the Mexicanos, the most humble members of the community, the farm workers and the ones that were doing all the labor. mixed with all the jefes, all the owners of the packing plants and the orchards and the most prominent members of the community who were all white. And so it was this equal mix, interested in the mariachi and excited about it. It was so I really feel like the mariachi was kind of a unifier, especially in this time of transformation in the demographic of the community. Absolutely. So it was really neat to be a part of that and to see the town change and the town have an appreciation for what the Mexican youth was doing. And so anyway,
really neat.
yeah. So I graduated from high school in 2001, and I was I was kind of desperate to get out of Wenatchee. I wanted to go back to California, and especially since I had seen Mariachi Reina de Los Angeles when I was 14 in Albuquerque, and I made it my goal, like that day at that concert, that I was going to be in the group. And so I cultivated a relationship with Jose Hernandez over the years, and when I graduated, he said, "Okay, you're going to school in California." I had been accepted, and I decided to go to Whittier College, which is a small liberal arts college east of Los Angeles, so Los Angeles suburb. And I started college, and let's see, I had my first rehearsal, I think, of 1 week before I started college. So it was like
Just a whole new life.
a whole new life. And at that time, my parents moved from Wenatchee to San Diego. My dad had been offered a job to teach mariachi music full time. So no more of the teaching the other subjects and then having a few mariachi classes on the side. It was six mariachi classes a day.
Yeah.
So he taught 3 at Chula Vista Middle School and 3 at Chula Vista High School. And like I said, I started college and started playing with Mariachi Reina, and that was a really challenging thing to take on because I think that there wasn't a lot of balance. First of all, I was super excited about the mariachi and really motivated to keep up with the demands. And then, of course, the pressures were different between being a student mariachi and being a professional mariachi in a full-time working organized group of that caliber. There were a lot of expectations, and I thought that I was in pretty good shape when I graduated from high school, but I quickly found out that no, I needed to do more. So I kind of feel, well, I'm not ashamed of it. I mean, I think I was ashamed of it for a long time, but my studies really took a back seat to mariachi. It's kind of like my dad's story, except that he was still serious about coming through with his studies, and I kind of wasn't. I was like all about the mariachi and like do just barely enough to get by as an undergraduate. And so now in retrospect, I see that as kind of like, oh man, because I see my students now at UT and how lucky are they to have a mariachi built in to their college experience and have the flexibility to do both. And I see how much they're enjoying their undergraduate experience, and I kind of feel like I cheated myself out of that. I mean, I don't have any regrets because my mariachi experience, although it was very hard, and there were times where I thought, oh, maybe I don't want to do this anymore because it was so hard. I mean, I learned a lot musically, and the skills, the musical skills, and the style, and the just how to be a mariachi are things that I carry with me today. And those are the things that I try to impart on my students. So, I mean, too bad that it happened the way that it did, but no regrets because, I mean,
It served you well.
it has served me well. Absolutely.
I would say. I mean, I can sort of relate to you because when it comes to academics taking a backseat to mariachi, because I went to, I'm going to Texas State, but about 2 years ago, I stopped being an M&G, and I was in there for about 4 years. and that's the mariachi there at Texas State. For those of you who do not know, and that's kind of what I did. I kind of just focused like all on mariachi. I mean, I went to Texas State just for that reason. So, like, I feel like if I would have focused more on studies in certain situations instead of mariachi, then I mean, obviously I wouldn't be here still. This is my 6th year at Texas State, so been here a while, and I know Alex.
Yeah.
He was in MNG too. I don't know if it was the same for you, but
Yeah, well, I mean,
Okay.
I'm studying engineering, and
Yeah.
I'm finally graduating in May. But yeah, if I wouldn't have done mariachi, I would have progressed quicker in engineering, even though it still would have taken me at least 5 years because the engineering program's long. But Matt, if you would have not done mariachi, you probably wouldn't be here in this moment.
yeah, that's true.
I mean, neither of us
That's
probably
true,
would be
yeah,
here in
neither
this
of
moment.
us.
We would have never met.
All three of us.
All 3 of us, yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't study and keep
Don't
doing
study.
mariachi. That's the
No,
message.
that's not the takeaway, but
No, but definitely I can relate to what you were saying.
yeah. I mean, it's just a different pathway, right? And but it's not to say that it was useless or
Right.
wrong, right? And I think that that's something that we as young people, especially like when we're living in it, I think that there's so much societal pressure, I think, that we do things in a certain order and in a certain time frame and move on with your life. You know, you should graduate
Pressure,
by the
yeah.
time you're 21, 22, and you should have a job and you should get married and have a family by this age and buy a house by this age and do all of these things. And I mean, life isn't over by 25, you know?
That's true.
Like,
It's very
Yeah.
true.
honestly, like you're just getting started at that age and still trying to figure things out. I mean, I'm 37 and I feel like I'm barely just getting a handle on like what life is and kind of having gotten things figured out. And so, I mean, there's no rush. There's no rush to do anything. And and everyone's different too. Some people know exactly what they want to do right away and are easily like streamlined from high school to college to graduate school to career or whatever the pathway is, and without any detours. And other people are, you know, like to have a little bit of life experience and life happened to them. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do things.
That's true.
And you walk away. Sometimes I really appreciate having all of these experiences because I think they've given me a wider perspective in the long run, you know?
Yeah. For sure. I mean, when, speaking of people knowing what they wanted to do since they were young, like you said earlier, you knew very young age that you wanted to be in Reinas, and you ended up being in the group. How was it to basically live a dream of yours? You know.
Well, I mean, it was exciting. Like I said, it was exciting, and it was something that I wanted to do. But I think that it wasn't what I expected. It was really hard. Like I said, the first year that I was there, I didn't really have any friends in the group, and I think that it's kind of like an initiation period where, hey, you're gonna prove yourself and how badly you want to be here. How seriously are you going to take this role? And I don't know how it is now, but that's how it was when I got there. And I was coming into a group of women that had a lot more professional experience than I did. And if I wanted to be there and I wanted to keep my job, I was going to have to rise up to the occasion very quickly. And I put everything that I had into the group. And I think that once the other women saw that I was serious about it and that I wanted to be there, sort of eased up and welcomed me in. And of course, the friendships that I made there are some of my most cherished friendships. We don't see each other hardly ever anymore, especially since I don't live in California anymore.
Yeah.
And I haven't for a very long time now. But when we do get together, it's all laughs and remember this and remember that. And, Jose's very demanding and wasn't, I think that he's changed over the years. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've been in Mariachi Reina. I was there from 2001 to 2008. So a lot can happen in 12 years, 13 years. And I don't know how he runs the group, but when I was there, I think we all felt a lot of pressure to put the group before anything else, especially since it's a job.
Yeah.
It's not like a little hobby thing or a part time thing, or like, oh, sorry, I can't go. Like with my students, I have to be flexible because they're there to get a degree. They're not there to become a professional mariachi.
Right.
As much as I would want them to,
Yeah.
because I think there's a lot of potential there, but I have to be realistic with my expectations. But that was a job, being in Mariachi Reina, and you know, if the group had a TV thing in the middle of the day, well, I don't know what you're gonna do about your classes, but you need to be at that thing. And we're gonna be gone from Thursday through Monday for a trip, or Thursday through Sunday, and
Wow.
figure it out. And so it was just exhausting trying to do both things. And like I said, especially when you're excited about one thing more than the other, then it's easy to just be like, I don't want to go to school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So did you finish your degree
Yeah, I did.
there at the same school?
At Whittier College, yeah. I graduated a year late. So I should have graduated in 2005. I graduated in 2006 with my BA in Spanish with a minor in history. And then after I graduated, I moved. Telling you guys, I just didn't know what I was going to do. And I think I sort of had this fantasy in my mind that I could just be a mariachi forever. But Mariachi Reina is, like, the best way I could describe it is like a part-time job, but with a full-time commitment. So you're not working every day, but you're working at very inconvenient times. So if you're going to get another job, how do you manage to do both?
Right.
And some of the girls have really managed to do both, and I commend them because I didn't know how I was going to do that. So I didn't go to any career fairs. I didn't even think beyond my major. I was just like, well, I completed school and I had no plan after. So I ended up moving to San Diego. I moved back in with my parents in 2006, and I started teaching mariachi music at Chula Vista Adult School in Chula Vista, California, which is a suburb of San Diego. And so I teach a little class 2 nights a week, and my dad had been teaching that class, and to help me out, he passed that teaching assignment over to me, which was nice of him. And then I was still traveling to LA on the weekends, which is about a 2-hour trip with no traffic, to play with Mariachi Reina. And I did that for 2 years. And I taught mariachi music during the week. Eventually, like the next year, I taught one mariachi class at a middle school, one at a high school, and then the adult school. So I'd do that Monday through Friday. And then on Fridays after work, I would go to LA and do whatever performing I had to do with the group, and then I'd go home on Sundays. So it was tough. And by 2008, that was like recession year, and everyone's losing their house, and there are no teaching jobs, or very few teaching jobs. People are getting pink slipped left and right, and gas was almost $5 a gallon. So by 2008, I decided, well, I don't think I can keep doing this. So I decided to go back to school full time. So I enrolled at San Diego State University to get my teaching credential, and I got my single subject credential in Spanish so that I could teach Spanish and ESL, middle school and high school. And then taught at a few different schools, but nothing was really working out. Like I said, 2008, I graduated in 2010. And by that time, like I said, the job market was pretty pitiful. And I started working at a charter school in Chula Vista, and started a mariachi class there, and it just was a very strange experience. So I actually ended up leaving that school in the middle of the school year.
Oh, really?
And I was so heartbroken to leave my students, but the administration just made my life unbearable there. And I won't get into that with too much detail because I don't think it's really relevant to the big picture.
Yeah.
That is my mariachi life, but that was a bummer. And so I kind of flailed around for a while doing sub jobs and not really knowing what I was going to do. I even moved back to Wenatchee thinking that I could get a job there in Washington, and that didn't work out. So I came back and started helping Mariachi Divas. This was in 2011. I worked kind of from September all the way through the new year with them. And then I got a long-term sub job at an elementary school in Chula Vista. So I went back to Chula Vista, and and started subbing. And then the next year they hired me as a full-time teacher, and I was teaching second grade, and that was different. The kids are so sweet, but I didn't realize how needy they were at that, that year, or at that age.
So that was the youngest. That was the youngest that you've taught.
Yeah. So I've had a bunch of different teaching jobs, but yeah, and they were all hard, and none of them were like, I couldn't picture myself doing that for the next 30 years, right? I would wake up every day thinking like, oh man, I don't feel like going to work today, and I don't think anyone should feel that way.
No.
So if you
You're not
feel
gonna
that
be
way,
happy.
yeah.
It's going to be very hard to do your job.
Exactly. And so anyway, I did it because I had to, but at the end of the 2012-13 school year, my job was given to somebody else, another displaced teacher in the district that had more time, more seniority. And so, again, I was without a job, and I thought, I put applications in all over California and couldn't find anything. And I thought, well, okay, I guess I'm going to go back to subbing and hope that something comes of it. And later that summer, I saw Mariachi Sagas from UTPA at the Mariachi Spectacular in Albuquerque. And I went and talked to the director, and I was blown away. I had never seen a student mariachi of that level. And I thought, where did this group come from? And I guess they had been in Albuquerque other years, but I really don't remember them until I saw them that year. And long story short, I spoke to the director. I submitted my application to the graduate school in pursuit of my master's degree, and they accepted me. And from Friday to Saturday, I made the decision that I was going to go to Edinburgh.
Wow.
So Friday, I packed my stuff up. Saturday, I started my drive over here to Texas. I didn't know where Edinburgh was. I just knew follow the signs.
Yeah.
And
Dang.
I got there Sunday evening, and class started on Monday.
Wow.
Like I was
Your life
like,
changed real quick.
yeah. So I was actually like picking my classes on the first day of the semester.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, it was a really, really fast transition, but I'm so grateful for that experience. Like I said, since I got out of Mariachi Reina in 2008 to 2013, I was just kind of trying to find my way. Oh, I need to mention that I did start playing with my dad again in 2012.
Oh, okay.
He had started an alumni group with all of with a lot of his former students there in Chula Vista, who had come to him and said, "Hey, we want to keep playing." So these were older people out of high school already, and after I came back from Washington and after my stint with the Divas had ended, I started playing with my dad again. So I played with him for about a year and a half.
Wow.
And that was a good experience because it kind of got me back into the swing of being with an organized group, a full piece mariachi, and sort of more what I was used to in high school and then with Mariachi Reina. And so that was good for me. And then I went to UTPA and started playing with Mariachi Sagas. And that was a lot of fun because I was in a show group again, and I like to play concerts and do all of that kind of stuff. And um, I was also pursuing my master's degree, and I actually started off with Spanish, an interdisciplinary master's degree with a focus on Spanish, history, and I think it was going to be Latin American studies. And then I decided to switch to ethnomusicology. And I'm really glad that I did that because I got to incorporate like my music and sort of my social perspective on the mariachi world, specifically my experiences with Mariachi Reina. And that was the topic of my thesis. Like, how separate is this space for women when it's still being directed by a man that has these very androcentric ideas of what a female mariachi, what that should look like, what that should sound like, the values that they should embody, what they should admit to the public, they should do with their public and personal life. And so really, if the male director is choosing the repertoire and choosing what we wear and choosing how we should look in what we wear, and already has this idea of what the ideal Mexican woman should look and sound like, then how much of it is actually for us, by us. So anyway, now that I'm a little bit further along in my thinking about that, I want to pursue a PhD.
Okay.
And I would like my dissertation to focus on just the female experience in general of the Mexican American Chicana mariachi musician. And that could incorporate case studies from here in Texas and also in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'd say you got plenty of examples.
Yeah,
We've actually talked. That's interesting, Monica, because we've actually talked about that subject here on this podcast a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, we have had that conversation, and very limited though because we can't relate.
We've been looking for somebody to relate to.
Yeah,
Right.
we don't know what it's actually like, but we do see that there is. I don't know.
It's just
The
it's
best
a
word.
male. I feel like it's a male dominant thing, mariachi. I mean, you don't see that many female groups like here in Austin, for example.
Yeah, there are a couple
and-
in San Antonio and a few in the
Of
Valley.
course, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I just don't think that the mariachi has exploded here in Austin. So, I mean, I don't think that there's even particularly like a huge like male mariachi presence here in Austin compared to other places. Yeah. So there's much less going to be like a female presence, right? But yeah, female mariachi experience, I can say from my personal experiences, is very different here in Texas than it is in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, like, I don't think that people pay attention so much to gender. It's like, can you come and play? We need somebody.
Yeah.
And then here, like, even when I joined Mariachi Aslan, a couple of my compañeros were like, yeah, I don't think girls should play mariachi. I'm like,
wow.
Hey guys, thanks for the welcome. And there were occasions where a couple of my friends, a couple of compañeros in Aslan, would be working with groups on the outside, and they'd be looking for a violin or a singer or whatever, and they'd recommend me, and they would rather go with no violin than invite me because
it's crazy. I've played with people like that.
Yeah,
they say
it's so weird.
I mean, I'm like, well, why don't we have this person play? And they're like, well, because I can't have females in the group,
Yeah.
And I'm like,
oh my gosh,
oh, it's okay.
I was like,
I'm like, that sounds so familiar. That's
mine doesn't do that. It's like,
it's the same alarm that
Yeah.
my girlfriend has. Anyways, It rang. I got PTSD there.
Yeah.
Are you gonna get hit?
Still, no, but I was saying like I work for somebody like that. They say I can't have females, and but it was weird because because of the reason why they said that they cause just drama in general. I don't know,
Yeah, I
but
don't know. I don't think so.
I didn't think so either. So
I mean, I will say, I think that, and I don't think this is like gender specific. There are people in the world who like to cause drama.
yes,
And it
yes.
doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. There are male mariachis that are very chismosos and stirring up trouble and talking about everyone.
It's
and
ruthless. They
trying
are
to
ruthless.
create discord within a group.
Yeah.
And I guess there are also female figures that can do the same thing. I mean, that's just people.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with gender. So to put all of that on, oh, because she's a woman, she's going to act this way or that way.
Right.
Is really not fair. But yeah, I've definitely noticed those attitudes are more prevalent here in Texas than they are in California.
Really? Dang.
And I've gone to play with musicians that know every song and play really well. And I mean, badasses.
Yeah.
And here I show up and I'm like, well, I don't know every song. I know.
I don't think anybody knows every single song.
But man, you go to work with some people, you're like, oh man, you do know every song.
Honestly,
and
well,
I'm like, oh shoot, okay. And here I am apologizing or telling them like, no, don't pay me as much. They're like, what are you talking about? Tú nomás sígueme, Mika, and turning around to show me the part or being really helpful have never ever made me feel like I was less or that my contribution didn't matter.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know why it's different here.
It is different, and even you can see it in even the clients. If you go gig professionally, I mean, some will ask, "Hey, do you have a female? I would like a female to come. I would like to hear a female sing or something." Or, I mean, it has happened before where they also say, "I don't want a female in the group either." So. You definitely do see that even amongst the clients too. So it's, I can say for sure.
I mean, I'm from the Valley. I went to high school in McAllen. Grew up like PSJ area. So I have seen that compared to Austin, there's less females that play mariachi down in the Valley compared to Austin. Also, I think part of that is because most of the groups in the Valley, even like with me, groups back then wouldn't take me because they don't want younger people or kids coming out of like high school or something to play. And even more, they wouldn't want girls to go and play. A lot of them come from Mexico, really deep parts of Mexico where they're just... That's how they grew up. There was no girls in mariachi. There never was. And so that's how they like to have their group. But here in Austin, from what I felt overall, it's not like that here as compared to the Valley. They're more accepting of girls coming to play. They'll just, as long as the girl or whoever it is can play and keep up, they'll take them. I've never really been in a group where they won't take somebody because of their gender. But well, Matt mentioned how sometimes they'll ask for females to be in the group or for them to not be in the group. There was one time where I did a gig. This is years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and this client specifically asked for no girls to be in for this gig, and we didn't really know why. But I mean, we go, we do it, and we get there, and I guess we understood why. It was a very weird type of gig. It was Austin. It was in Austin. Austin gigs are just weird in general.
Yeah, keep Austin weird.
Of this city. But I don't know. They were like on something, or there was girls there at their skies. Let's say it was about pretty even. But at the end of it, I honestly don't know why, specifically. But I guess they didn't want one, even though it was like a wedding party.
Oh.
It was very
Yeah, that's
strange.
weird.
But well, what is your, I guess, your take on that? Your opinion when a client will ask for a female specifically, but sometimes it's because they want the girl, like a girl to look at, or for them to sing certain songs, or act a certain way, or dress a certain way. I mean, is that better or worse?
I think when clients ask for a girl, I think they're usually expecting that the girl will be like the main singer, or that they'll sing certain repertoire, right? And so I mean, I think that that's usually why they request a female singer, or I mean, a female to be part of the group, is mainly for their role as a singer. Now, if clients are requesting female presence because they want somebody pretty and somebody who looks good in their suit and to be flirting with the customers, or the clients or whatever, well, I mean, mariachis come in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, they might not embody, like, your fantasy figure or whatever. But I mean, I can't, I've never been on the receiving end of like that type of request. Like, we just want somebody to look at. So I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean, if
that's-
clients maybe they're more comfortable to ask like a man, who's taking jobs for that kind of, que esté bonita and whatever, blah, 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 blah. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I definitely do. I will say that I think that there is a pressure usually from men, for female mariachis to look a certain way, though, and that they should be thin, and they should be and they should be pretty, and they should be super feminine, and
Really?
because
Is that actually a thing that they?
in my experience, like I've been made to feel bad about my appearance, or that my appearance was a reason why I wasn't being taken to jobs.
Wow.
So,
That's surprising. That's crazy. Because, yeah.
and so I mean, talk about like messing with like your self confidence and your self esteem, and and how you feel about yourself as a mariachi, right? Like, gosh, like if my appearance is ruining it, then maybe like my musical contribution is not as strong as I thought it was, because shouldn't it be the music
Just
first?
about the music, yeah.
Right. So anyway, I don't think that same kind of pressure exists with the female community amongst themselves. But I think that, I'm not saying all, I'm just saying in my experience, I've encountered someone with that attitude.
Yeah, that's
Well, as a female, do you feel that there is some added pressure to play at a certain level, because I guess there's a lot of musicians that will look down at females before they even hear them play, before they hear them sing. So you have to go in there kind of like at the best that you can, just to prove that you're good enough to even be there, when some guys might go in there and not be the greatest players, but just because they're guys and they can get along with each other, they get by with that.
Yeah, totally. And I feel very conflicted maybe sometimes, because I don't want to go against my community. But at the same time, I'm like, come on, ladies, like you got to step it up, because we have a hard enough time existing in this community, that we don't need to further those negative stereotypes, right? That, oh, she's just here because she looks pretty, or she's just here because she sings a couple of songs, but she doesn't know what she's doing on her instrument. Like, you have to be able to do both. And I think absolutely there is that pressure to, I mean, if you're going to take it seriously and you don't want people to talk badly, I mean, maybe some people are going to talk anyway, but just, hey, I belong here because I'm good enough. But exactly, where is that same pressure for our male counterparts? It's like somebody can like
Yep.
half bake their way through playing the guitar or the violin or whatever instrument, or sound terrible on the trumpet, but nah, vamos a la chamba, and there's no pressure for them to get better or for them to be dismissed from the group. But I mean, a woman shows up like that, and what are you doing here? And I mean, no matter who you are, like you should be striving to do your best and to make uh, the largest contribution that you can, right? I mean, there's no worse feeling, I think, of showing up to a job knowing that somebody didn't play something and then they're still getting paid the same as you. It's like, well, hey, like I've been busting my tail all these years to actually be able to do something and take it seriously. And you just show up and just kind of hang out. And you're still getting paid.
A lot of people, that's how they view it. They view
Yeah.
mariachi, as it's just, fun time all the time.
Yeah, easy
It's actually
money.
work.
No,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work.
It's
It's
a
a
lot
lot
of
of
work.
work to be good at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of against like the gimmick side of being a female mariachi. I think there are a lot of groups out there that are so musically, or some are downright just not very good. But they think like, oh, but people are gonna love it because it's an all-female group. And then you hear it, and like for the female community that does take it seriously and wants to promote women in mariachi at a high level, then you're like, man, you guys are just walking us backwards. Like, come on. And no, don't wear tight outfits and whatever, and don't make that the centerpiece of your show.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to compensate for musical inferiority. Because I mean, we want to be taken seriously too. I mean, women have a hard enough time just being part of a patriarchal society, And I mean, and I'm talking about a larger society, and then of course, like the mariachi society.
Yeah.
But I've played in been a part of like full time with groups where we have had girls. The group I'm with now, we don't. But the past couple that I've been in, we have had multiple girls at one point in these groups. Sometimes it would be, let's say they weren't up like musically where they should be. They're very very attractive, and they just kind of did enough, to get by and stuff. But the clients would like to see them because they're girls and they have in their traje and they look nice and stuff. So that's where there was, I guess, like a conflict as a director, and I'm just saying this as like in general, where do you as a director of a group, of like a professional group or something, or a gigging group, you have to draw that line of getting that work, but also making sure everybody is capable of doing what they're supposed to, because it ultimately, I mean, it makes the group sound bad, but you're still making money. And with these gigging groups, money is the number one thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot, especially nowadays, where it's like a lot of the professional mariachis don't have something else to fall back on, right? So like they have to get any job that they can, and they're gonna go and work with the group that has the most work because they need to make money. And I understand that. And sometimes like the musical integrity suffers because of that. The artistic integrity suffers because of that, because we need to make money. And in LA, it's that story. And, like there are fewer and fewer like big organized groups now because everyone's just doing their own thing, trying to hustle. And I would imagine it's the same over here. But I think that if you have the luxury or the good fortune of being able to do this as like a side hustle, then money should not be the driving force behind your actions, because if that's all you're interested in, then yeah, it's easier to integrate people who don't really care, like we're just here to make cash. Now, as a director, I would say that if you want to accomplish both, then you need to set some standards and some boundaries for your group right from the get-go. Like, we're going to rehearse twice a week, and these are the expectations, and you need to know all your notes. And if you have like a strong sub leader or whatever, hey, we need to do sectionals, and try and pull those people along that aren't cutting it and help them along the way, not just leave it, right? Like, hey, you want to be in the group? Yeah, you look pretty in your traje and you can sing a couple of songs, and the people really like you. I mean, encourage them. The people like you and you're good for our business. But ultimately, like, this is a quality musical ensemble that we're trying to build. So I'm sorry, like, half baked is not gonna, that's not enough. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with the director putting their foot down. And if the members are not willing to rise up to those expectations, then you find somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's too much of that, like, oh, but I don't want to hurt their feelings, or, but, oh, they show up to everything. I mean, but it just depends on what your ultimate goal is. Like, if you're like, nah, I don't really care, and I just need to make some money to pay for my groceries next week, or my whatever, my car payment, then take whoever you want. But I don't know. To me, I think that's not fun for me. It's not fun for me to go to a chamba and be flailing around on the violin trying to pick up parts, and like, that is so hard. That's so exhausting, that I would rather be with a group that's willing to put in a little extra, like during the week or earlier on a Saturday before we set out for our gigs, and just knock a few little things out, and have like the music be the top priority, and then everyone goes to the chamba and everyone's relaxed. Everyone is having, that's when you're gonna have a good time, and that's when 6 hours on a Saturday isn't gonna feel like 20. Because everyone knows what they're doing. And I don't know, so I think that it all comes down to the leadership style, and what the director wants.
Going back to your Aslan days, were you there when Aslan played for Barack Obama?
No,
That
I
was right. That was
wasn't.
before you.
I think that was a year, or I guess it would have been a year and a half before I got there.
You didn't get
Major
to play.
No.
Play for Obama.
And I always miss it, because I got out of Mariachi Reina in August of 2008. And then in May of 2009, they went to play for Barack Obama at the White House for Cinco de Mayo. And I had been contemplating getting out of the group for a while, and I was like, no, because if I get out, they're going to do something, and I'm going to be all salty about it. And sure enough, I should have waited one more year.
Could have been there, but I mean, y'all during your time, you played for some big name people at the time.
Yeah, I mean, well, the first trip, the out of town trip that we had, was to Washington, D.C. We played for the CHCI, the Hispanic Caucus, their annual gala. And I actually played at that same event with Mariachi Reina in 2004. So it was kind of cool to go back to that event. And Olga Tañón was there, and Sebastian de la Cruz was there. I think he sang the national anthem that year. And Salma Hayek was there, and we saw her. We didn't take a picture with her, but we saw her. And that fall, we did a concert with Little Joe, which was kind of cool, because my dad, when he had his restaurant in Orange County, would invite Little Joe to do Noche Tejana or whatever at the restaurant every year, and he went for I don't know how many years, several years.
So you already knew him, huh?
So yeah, well, I mean, I knew of him.
Yeah.
I was little. I didn't ever meet him before, but
That's
that
cool.
was kind of cool. And yeah, I mean, we did an event for the Chicago Lyric Opera the year before the second opera premiered. So we went to Chicago in 2014 and 2015. We went back to Chicago in the summer of 2015 for the Chicago Mariachi Festival that's hosted by the Mariachi Heritage Foundation, which is a youth mariachi program there in Chicago.
Yeah.
And we went to the Tucson Mariachi Festival in 2015, and that was cool because my dad had been going to that festival since the 80s, or it was the first year that they had it, and I had never been to it. And I know that it's under different leadership now, but it was a lot of fun, and that was cool. The camperos were there, and I'm trying to think. I know we did some other
You did
stuff.
were you there when they did the rodeo?
No.
That was also before you.
No, we didn't do the rodeo the years that I was there because we were invited by a colleague in San Diego to play for his festival. So it was during the same time as the
It was
rodeo.
either or. Yeah.
It was either or.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we got to hang out in San Diego for the week, which was cool.
Yeah.
And, the first year that I was there, we went to a smaller group of us went to Nashville, and we recorded a part for Quaver's Wonderful World of Music or something like that. I don't remember the exact title, but it's a music curriculum that is distributed to music programs all over the country.
Okay.
And so we did a segment on mariachi music.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
which is very cool. Like, I'm happy and excited that they would find a space for it in a traditional elementary / middle school music curriculum, just general music, and that they would find mariachi intriguing enough and important enough to include in that. So that was a lot of fun. Wow. And I had never been to Nashville either, and so we got to do a lot of fun stuff while I was there. I mean, it was hard because this is graduate school, and I'd like to think that I had matured from the time that I was in undergrad to the time that I went to graduate school. It was like no more fooling around, you know. You gotta take your classes seriously and keep up with the work, and because your goal is to graduate and have it and get your degree. And
you did it.
I did it.
Yeah. You did it.
Yeah.
So when you graduated, what was that, 2016?
I left Pan Am in 2016, but I was still working on my thesis. I got a job to teach mariachi music in Las Vegas. And so I ended up moving to Vegas and teaching 5 classes a day at a high school there. And that was a lot of fun. And that was kind of a good reintroduction to teaching, especially since a few years before I was like, oh, geez, I don't want to do this. Yeah. But I had a lot of fun teaching mariachi music. When it was my program, I started it from scratch. And again, it was kind of the same story as my dad. Most of my students had no musical experience, and I was starting them from scratch. But I got a good little group going, and they were doing really well. And so I was having a good time doing that while I was working on piecing my thesis together. So I ended up actually graduating in 2017.
In the spring?
In the summer.
In the summer.
Summer too.
Did you kind of put your thesis together like the night before, like your other research papers?
It sure felt like that.
And just stay up.
I'm like, I hope not too many people read it. Only because I think I could have done a much better job. If I had stayed at Pan Am that next year and just knocked it out and had, been in my advisor's office every day, I know I would have produced something that I was a lot more proud of. But it was just kind of like, get it done, Monica. You need to graduate. Like, it's been 4 years.
Well, sometimes a little urgency is good for us.
So I mean, I got the degree. I guess that's what matters. And so my second, I guess it was during my second year, about January, February, I got a few emails from different people saying that they were looking for a new director for a full-time position at UT. And I thought, I spoke to my advisors that I had at Pan Am, and just to get their thoughts, like, should I even try? Because
Wow. Yeah.
I didn't have a PhD, I don't have a PhD yet,
Mhm.
and I didn't know how strict they were going to be on that requirement. It said, you know, uh, professional experience was, equivalent to whatever. You didn't necessarily have to have a PhD.
Right.
But I thought, well, I don't know. I don't know who else is going to apply, but I thought I'd take a chance, and I submitted my application, and I came for an interview in March, and towards the end of April, they offered me the job. So,
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy to think that you were even not even considering to do the interview.
yeah, I was kind of doubting it at first
Yeah.
just because of the degree. But then I thought, no, if my advisor said, well, just take a shot, just see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, you were probably the youngest applicant they had, probably.
I think so. I only know of one of the other applicants, and yeah, he's a lot older than me. But I know that there were four of us that were invited for interviews.
Right.
That's as far as I know. So probably one of the younger ones.
Well, I'll tell you, whenever the word got out that you were the director, it was like the shot that was heard around the world. That was
Yeah, a lot of people
Wow.
talked about it.
yeah.
Especially,
It
well,
was.
because I mean, Zeke was in charge of that program for, I mean, forever. UT hasn't had many mariachi directors. Like,
Yeah.
I think what, maybe two, three, four. I
Yeah,
think you're the fourth ever.
it's kind of like bounced around from sometimes student hands, sometimes other professors, sometimes it's just kind of like never found its
Yeah.
space. But I think when they solidified like this position, that it was going to be full time and everything, I think it puts it on a different level, in terms of seriousness, right?
Yeah.
It's not just like a little. Let's have this little class here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I could have swore it wasn't even Alex like in charge of it for a bit or something.
He was a
Or
what would you call him? He was a consultant
Okay, okay.
for for the UT mariachi and the trumpet specifically.
Oh,
But
okay.
he would help Zeke out a lot. So he was there for a few years. But I remember, UT has never, well, up until the last few years, has never really sounded great, and everybody always questioned like, why? I mean, UT is one of the richest universities in the country. They have the money. They just never put it in the music program until recently when they got that huge grant for the music program for mariachi. And so, and then I remember when UT Mariachi a few years ago, when Zeke was still in charge, they were trying to raise money to go to Vargas and do these kind of things, and people were questioning like, why are they fundraising? And like, this is UT, but I mean, UT didn't give money to the mariachi. So now, I mean, you've done a good job, a really good job, with recruiting more students into that program and getting it to a level that honestly I've never heard UT at this level that it's been. And I mean, it sounds a lot better.
Oh, well, thank you.
In a few short years.
Yes, you guys sound really good.
Thank you.
Yes,
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think this experience at UT is just a culmination of all these experiences that I talked about earlier in this podcast, that the music has to be number one, right? And okay, maybe we're not going to be like a star group all the time, but no matter what we do, has to still sound good, right? And we have to mold the group around who we have, and try and highlight the strengths of the group, right? Instead of just saying like, oh, we have to be like everyone else. and try to play the same type of pieces and whatever because they're doing this, so now we have to do it. And I mean, that's not how this works. And there is so much repertoire in the mariachi that I don't know why everyone's choosing this like the same type of thing. You
That's
can
true.
do something like beautiful,
Yeah.
and everyone can do like something unique, right? So
That's true.
I'm not ever trying to follow any trends. I'm not trying to do what everyone else is doing. I'm just trying to do what I think is going to be good for my students and what's going to make them sound good. And of course, we have to practice. Like, you like it or not, we're not just going to toss something together. And if it sounds bad, we're not doing it. And I'm not just saying that about UT. I'm saying that in general. Like, I mean, because I've heard a lot of groups over the years, and there are always some at these festivals or these big events that are playing way beyond their level or just didn't take the time to or care to do it right. And you're like, don't the directors have ears? Like,
Yeah.
you know, don't the students have ears? Like, you know, how can you put your students in that position for them to fail? And that's something that I've vowed. Again, like, I will never put my students in a position where they're not going to feel that it was a triumph, no matter how big or small. Doesn't matter. And
I mean, yeah. I feel like a lot of those situations, it goes back to the fact that, mariachi still isn't, I would say, to them, it's not as important. So they're going to be, brushing it to the side more. And that goes into, not preparing enough for it and everything. But I think you've done an amazing job of preparing your students. And
thank you.
everything. Also, I love the type of rep that you went into the rep that you guys do. And like the other day, you guys posted a video of doing La Gruta.
Oh yeah.
Like that was, I mean, nobody really does that at like universities at least.
Yeah.
But I mean, Texas State, we never did any of that stuff, and a lot of the schools and in general like to do all this fancy like popurris, Sol de México or Nuevoteca,
Exactly. Like I don't want to be somebody else's cover band. Like some
Yeah,
of the repertoire is cool. Like, hey, I would like the students to play this. We're working on Fiesta Charra and the Nuevo Tecalitlan, and that's cool.
Yeah,
Maybe a couple of pieces, but not all of it. And
Uh-huh.
or if I commission somebody to write an arrangement, I don't want it to sound like something that one of the other groups would play because then it's not a symbol of our group, right?
Yeah.
And we want to put our little stamp on what we do too.
Yeah.
Something that sets us apart. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm way off, but like I said, I'm not going to ever follow any trends. I want to stay true to my values because I know where they come from, and like I value them. I value my own values, right?
Yeah.
and I want my students to have kind of this more authentic notion of what mariachi music is and what it means to be a mariachi musician. I just want them to have the appreciation for that. Because I don't think that there's enough emphasis placed on that. I'm not saying that it's not existent. I just think that it's maybe everyone gets wrapped up in like the competitive thing and forgets, hey, why were we excited about this music in the first place? And then we're not even playing it. We're just trying to outdo each other and be mean to each other. And don't we all have the same goal in mind? Don't we all just want to be good?
Yeah. You would think, right? Because we're all, it's kind of like a community,
It is.
Mariachi, it's a community.
Mariachi world is
You would think.
small.
Yeah,
We don't need to be going against each other.
I know.
You talked about how, I mean, from literally you were born, probably before you were born, your mom would go see your dad play at the restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Just always having mariachi part of your life, and then even moving to a small little remote town and bringing mariachi there. and LA and Vegas and Edinburgh and all the places that you've traveled, and the education you've had, the people you've played with, has kind of led you to where you are now. So what do you feel that has been like the biggest factor that you attribute the most to, that has helped you to the position that you are in now?
I will say that the biggest contributing factor to what I can give back to the mariachi community is the professional experience that I've had, or that I've been around my entire life. Seeing how my dad ran a group, a professional group, seeing how he ran a student group, and then becoming a member of that. Working for Jose Hernandez, I mean, talk about having a high level of discipline and expectations for the musicians as people and as artists. And taking all of that and then being able to apply it in many different contexts with a lot of different people, be it as a student or a participant in a group, I think has given me the perspective and the skills needed in order to be remotely successful in the position that I have now. And like I said earlier, the musical and professional values that I acquired, especially when I was working with Mariachi Reina, are things that I carry with me today. And those are the things that I try to instill in my students. And so, as hard as it was being a member of Mariachi Reina for professional reasons and for personal reasons, it's just like, I said, I started college and playing in a professional mariachi and trying to find myself as a young adult at the same time. It was a lot to handle. And it was all very quick, and I didn't know what I was doing. So, as hard as it was to live through those years, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything else, because it's brought me to who I am today. And even the mistakes that I made, I can share some of those with my students if they're relevant, and let them know that this doesn't have to be you. You can do this instead, or whatever, just as people. But I mean, the musical component, I played with some really, really great musicians who I admire and respect so much. And I think that's an experience that not a lot of people are gifted in this world, and a lot of people would like to have. And so, how I can pay it forward is just by sharing that with others.
Well, I think that definitely helps because, I've gotten opportunities to play with you. And, honestly, you don't know it, but I've learned a lot actually from you, even just by watching the little time that I spent, playing with you. I've learned so much already. So, I mean, if I were a student of yours there at UT, I'd be extremely grateful because, they really lucked out.
Oh, well, thank
They
you.
really lucked out having you there.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
what is something that you try to get that message across to your students? Because like you said, I mean, most of them aren't music majors, right?
No, I have only one music major.
In out of
Oh.
13 or something.
Yeah.
Dang.
One music
That's
major.
crazy.
And that I guess that trend still hasn't changed the past, since from what I've seen, even when Zeke is taken over. I think there's a point where there's 0 music majors probably at some point.
That's insane because we went to Texas State there, the mariachi, and there was a time where I think we were the only ones that were not.
We were the only ones
we
that
were
were-
not music majors. Everybody else were
Okay.
music majors.
Everybody else.
So that's crazy to hear.
Yeah, we have the opposite issue.
Yeah. That's 2 totally different cultures there.
Yeah.
But something that we talked about in a previous podcast with Joe Baca,
Uh-huh.
how neither of us are music majors, but he says how music can change the way you look at life, how you go on with your career, the experiences that you've had from doing gigs, from playing in with a group, in competitions. So what are kind of something that you try to get that message across to your students, seeing as, I mean, most of them aren't music majors and aren't going to continue with music the rest of their lives. Do you feel that they see that there's still that connection that is still valuable to them?
Absolutely. I mean, the mariachi is as much a part of their college experience as anything else. And the fact that they find the time to practice and to show up for rehearsals and to, appease my whims or demands is really remarkable, that they really find a balance in all of that, and that it's equally important to them, as their studies for their other careers are, and they make it happen. And I mean, in spite of not being music majors, I think that I'm very fortunate to have the group of students that I do that still take it seriously. Now, everyone's, most people that come to UT, like they're not, unlike maybe going to Pan Am or UTRGV or maybe even Texas State, is that they're not going to UT for the mariachi. They're going for their studies and then to participate in the mariachi. But nonetheless, like I said, they still find the time to make it as much a priority as they can. And of course, it's a two-way street. There has to be give and take, right? I have to have the expectation that we're not going to be able to do every performance that we get invited to, because if I don't have a group, we're not going. I'm not going to try and patch it together or send something half done, just to nomás para sacar la chamba, right? We can't do that, because then we don't erase those stereotypes that, I mean, UT Mariachi has been around since the late 70s, and it's never, I mean, a lot of people don't even know that that there's a mariachi on campus.
Yeah.
But then those who do have the impression that it's still not very good, and I'm like, no, well, we're not going to show up and further those bad impressions or those negative thoughts towards the mariachi. We don't need that as a representative of the school of music, and we don't need the other people within our school to look down upon us, right? So, I hope that maybe one day it'll be a little bit better balanced, where we can attract students, where the mariachi will gain enough of a good reputation to attract students to want to come to UT, because they want to be a part of the mariachi and want to study music at UT and be a part of the mariachi. And I mean, I have a lot of ideas for how we could expand. I know Texas State has their mariachi program. UTRGV has just implemented their mariachi program through the music education. And that's something that I've started discussing with my boss at UT, that we also need to come up with something, a degree plan, so that we can attract the type of students that we want to incorporate into the future of the ensemble. I don't know if that really answered your question.
All right.
Yeah, you answered it somewhere in there.
I think I went around it.
Probably, maybe in the future, probably have enough students where you can even have a all female UT mariachi group.
Maybe that would be cool. I mean, I think the more female participants we can have, the better.
Yeah. Aslan did that, right, recently? Or
Yeah,
UTRGV did it recently?
UTRGV had a female mariachi. I don't know if it's still, I mean, I don't know what's going on at every institution this year.
Yeah.
But I know that they had a few performances last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
So y'all are working, or y'all are conversating about making, trying to get a degree plan going for the education.
I don't know how soon it'll happen, but I mean, it's been mentioned.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah.
Next week. So where does it go from now? I mean, you've been director now at UT for 3 years. What are your, I guess, short-term goals here at the program, or for, just in yourself?
Right. Somebody asked me this the other day. I was like, well, my number one goal is to rehearse in person again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That's been, I mean, this year has been a major setback. Like the group of students that I have this year, I mean, we were on a roll last year, our
Yep.
second year. And this year I knew it was going to be better because I had more students with more experience coming into the group. And, this whole pandemic just threw a wrench in everything. And, rehearsal, I think everyone's trying to be optimistic about the spring, but I think if we're realistic, it's probably just going to be more of the same. We might be able to find some outdoor spaces to rehearse, I don't know, sort of rehearse or do something. But yeah, that's number one goal, to resume rehearsals in person. But in terms of goals for the program, yeah, I would really like to establish some pathway for people who want to study music education with a specialization in mariachi music, because I think there's a really big demand. I must have gotten like 6 emails over the summer of people from different administrators from different school districts here in Texas looking for mariachi directors. And who can I recommend to them? I mean, I, I, I feel a little apprehensive and uncomfortable recommending somebody who doesn't have any experience with mariachi music, not even through like a university degree program or something. It's just like throwing somebody who specialized in choral music or in band music or something, and here's a mariachi class or here's a mariachi program.
Yeah.
You're putting them in a cumbersome spot,
Yeah.
So definitely establish that. I definitely have aspirations of starting a mariachi festival at UT.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Hosted
That'd
by
be
UT. How do you say? Sponsored by UT, and maybe some of the other larger businesses within the community. I'll have to talk with the fundraising folks at UT before I do anything, but that's kind of a longer term goal that I would have. And for my students, just keeping them inspired to practice and to keep the group. If it's not possible to get to the next level, at least maintain the level that we're at right now. And of course, recruiting students from other places that are more experienced. I think it is so sad that there are thousands and thousands of kids that go through these mariachi programs, and once high school is over, most of them drop out.
Yeah.
And I mean, part of the problem is that, yeah, there are several universities that have mariachi programs, but they only have like one class. So, I mean, you can't have like 100 people in your ensemble, right? So the opportunity to continue playing an ensemble is very limited when you get to the university level, because you only have 1 or 2 ensembles, maybe 3 if you have a lot of interest. But I think the more students that I'm able to attract to UT, the more possibilities for opening like a secondary or tertiary group open. And so, yeah, but let's just start with what we have. We have 1 mariachi ensemble, and I would like for those students that come out of these really top-notch programs to consider coming to UT and to see it as a viable possibility, so that they can continue their mariachi studies. And not that it's bad, it's great. I'm one of the alums and so fortunate to have gone there. But there are programs beyond UTRGV, and I think that the students need to be reminded of that. Certainly Texas State and now UT. We need people too.
You guys are definitely on the map, and there you have it, guys. Go.
We should
sign
be.
up.
I guess we should be promoting Texas State, right, Matt? But not this episode is sponsored by UT Mariachi Program.
Well, there you have it, guys. Go apply.
Yeah.
Go apply, and now UT. Another issue that was, a big thing with a lot of people not going to UT and people that do mariachi is UT is really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But now UT offers, I mean, basically free tuition if I believe it's your household income's like under 80 grand a
I think
year
it might be
or
70.
70.
So,
Mm-hmm.
So you get free tuition.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just have to have the grades.
just gonna, yep.
Yeah. But yeah, everybody go to UT. All our under 18 listeners. I don't know how many people we have that listen to us that are.
I've
under
heard we
18.
got a few. Yeah.
Really high school.
Yes.
People
Awesome.
Alicia, all her students listen. They've heard our podcast.
She
So
makes it as a tester.
there's a few.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the more people that hear this,
Mhm.
the better.
For sure. For sure. So if there's anything else you want to plug about,
Absolutely.
any
It's
plugs?
never too early to start making plans for what university you want to go to. And for those interested in studying music, even though the mariachi doesn't have a specific scholarship set up, we have very competitive scholarships on behalf of the School of Music. So if your grades are good and you're stellar on your instrument, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to qualify for scholarship to come to UT. And any little bit helps. And hopefully in the future, we will also be able to set up a scholarship fund for students who are part of Mariachi Paredes, which is the performance ensemble at the university. So lots of plans. Like I said, this year kind of threw us off
yeah,
because everything is at a standstill.
yeah, just
But we're making progress. Oh, and I would like to also let our younger listeners know that we also have a summer mariachi camp. I'm not sure what form it's going to take this summer. Last summer we had to cancel it. Hopefully we don't have to cancel it again this year. And whether it's in person or not remains to be seen. But nonetheless, we'll have some nice activities set up for you if you choose that you'd like to participate.
there you have it.
That's so nice. But so this has been episode 21 of Los Mariachi Sagas. I want to thank Monica Folgequist for coming out, being our
Yes,
guest.
Thank you.
It's been fun. And man, I'm gonna have to do that again. But no, so thank you all for listening. Go apply to UT, and we'll see you all next week.
See you guys.
Thanks. Bye.